So one of Zack Polanski's central arguments that he's making as Green Party leader, and is part of the broader Green Party philosophy and political manifesto and our prospectus for government, is the idea of increasing taxes on the rich. And people are very interested to hear what Zack has to say, and it's really brought the conversation about wealth taxes and increases in capital taxes and broader increases in taxes that target the richest in society onto the political agenda and the political zeitgeist, and that's been the strength of Zack Polanski's campaigning. But it does mean that the news now are paying more attention and they're having lots of debates on this issue. Zack Polanski was asked to debate this man over here, who is the former CEO of Sainsbury's, and this is what he had to say.
Well, I think I'm one of those millionaires that Zach's talking about. Everything I've had, I've earned. I still consider myself a working person.
Okay, so I think it's worth pointing out. So, in traditional Marxism, the proletariat, i.e. the working class, are people who sell their labour for a wage. CEOs technically do that. They technically do sell their labour for a wage, but they don't actually engage in any part of the productive process. So their wage is paid out through surplus value taken from the workers who do generate that value. That's a kind of a difference, I guess, in a modern economy than when Marx was writing about capitalism. But on a broader point, this is why Labour keep talking about working people, not the working class, because it would still apply to somebody like this who considers himself a working person. Remember 80k question time guy who we keep bringing up over and over and over again, who got mad at the idea of people who earn more than 80k a year paying more income tax under the Labour manifesto in 2019. And he thought that he was in the bottom half of income earners. He didn't think he was in the top 50%, which is, of course, crazy, because 80k is quite literally where the top 5% starts, or it was in 2019. Because in his head, he considered himself still a working person, even though he's a very high earner. At the time, a very high earner, and if it's increased with inflation, still a very high earner, still in the top 5%. And that was the whole point of Labour's rhetoric, was to not talk about working class people, to not talk about the broader proletarian struggle, but to talk about working people so they would still get CEOs and highly paid managers and things like that on side when it came to the election. So when they said we don't want to increase taxes on working people, like, is a CEO what most people think when you hear working people? Of course not. Of course not. But he considers himself a working person because he's worked hard for everything that he's done. I'm like, no, you're appointed by shareholders to generate value for them, and then you're paid money from surplus value extracted from people who do actual work. That's your role in society as a CEO.
Put in a shift. And I've always paid my taxes, as the vast majority of wealth in this country do, actually. Just for the avoidance of doubt, I won't be fleeing, because I think this country's given me all the opportunity that I've had, and therefore I should always play my part.
I mean, this is at least a good admission here, that when you say that you've earned everything that you've got, that's not actually true though, is it? Because even if you are somebody who does work and isn't just somebody who lives off of surplus value extracted from other people, at the very least, your ability to earn a wage, your ability to make money, your ability to earn a living is dependent upon a functioning public realm that exists because there is a taxable base, right? To give the currency value you need to tax. And so the work that you do is facilitated by a state that is able to provide the infrastructure that allows companies like Sainsbury's to operate. Those things would not exist were there not a state there to facilitate them. And that state requires that the currency that it issue has value via taxation. So what he's admitting there really is that actually he didn't earn all of the money that he's got. The money that he got was given to him as a function of the entirety of society that exists, and the hospitals that made Sainsbury's workers healthy to go to work, the schools that educated them so that they were able to do the work in the first place, the roads that Sainsbury's trucks deliver their produce from the fulfillment centres to actual storefronts, all of that public infrastructure funded by the state. So he didn't earn it all on his own, did he? Wonder if he's made any money from dividends or rents in addition to extracting surplus value? Yes, so this guy did get pretty substantial share packages in his role as CEO of Sainsbury's too. So he not only gets paid a wage, he also gets paid rent from what he owns in Sainsbury's through stock options too. So he's not just a working person, he is also an owner and therefore at least a member of the bourgeois. Slightly.
But you have to start from the facts. And the facts are that the top 1% in this country are about 12% of earnings in this country, and they're already about 26% of tax revenue in this country.
That's only income tax. Wealth taxes are targeted at people who own, not people who earn. That's a really big distinction. People keep doing this. People keep doing this in the public discussion of a wealth tax, going, oh, well, high earners already pay a lot. Fine. We are not targeting the income tax of high earners. We are targeting the wealth of people who own lots of assets. Those are two different things. Again, there's a reason why Rishi Sunak, the richest prime minister in history, in British history, pays a lower effective tax rate than a nurse. It's because he makes his money from capital gains and from dividends, not from income.
So I think you cannot start from a premise that the rich don't already materially contribute and pay their way.
No, high earners do. High owners don't. And that's the disparity of the whole problem with our society. It's why people like Gary Stevenson talking about taxing wealth, not taxing work, because we do the latter far more than we do the former. Hence why the wealth of Rishi Sunak is taxed lower than the work of a nurse. It's also worth pointing out that the taxes paid by high earners are so much of the economy because of how unequal our economy is.
The essence of your argument is a political argument which has some attractions, and we hear that from the response in the audience, but it isn't an economic argument, and this is fundamentally an economic problem.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Politics is economics. Economics is politics. The two are inseparable. The idea that somehow economics is totally divorced from politics is fucking insane. I don't know how you can be somebody who's invited on a program to talk politics and try and claim that you can separate both the economy and the political realm from each other. What a ridiculous thing to say. Politics is mostly about the allocation of money. Literally. The whole point of having a political realm and having a democracy is to direct the economy.
The whole premise we're having this conversation on is a false premise, because actually, I'm really pleased, Justin, that you've worked really hard, and I do genuinely credit that. But I would challenge the idea that every penny is because you've worked really hard. Because at some point, once you've made enough money, you're buying an asset, then you're making money on that asset. And all we're saying here is you can work as hard as you want, and I really appreciate that. I'm sure the audience appreciates that. We're asking for 1% on an asset of £10 million or more. That is a tiny amount of money that millionaires would not notice, but would make a fundamental difference to tackling inequality in this country.
And what's worth pointing out is that on most returns on those assets, that 1% is still lower than the overall equity that they're gaining from the passive income of those assets, right? It's not even necessarily putting equality back. It is making inequality rise slower. So arguably it needs to be even bigger than just the 1% on assets of £10 million or more, but nevertheless. What's interesting as well is that Zack Polanski was quite nice to this CEO. He was quite nice to this guy who used to be the CEO of Sainsbury's. And you know what? I'll credit Zack for being a diplomatic political actor. But I have some news to share with you, which shows that why you should not be nice to these people. So this is from Justin King's Wikipedia page. Shortly after joining Sainsbury's, King authorised the removal of the Colleague Christmas Bonus Award. The Guardian reported the new chief executive of ailing supermarket chain J. Sainsbury ran into his first controversy yesterday as it emerged that he has been awarded free shares worth more than £500,000 in the same week as he axed the £100 Christmas bonus paid to staff. The removal of the bonus was a contentious issue, given its consistent payment for 25 years, and it's also given this was the year Sir Peter Davis received a disputed bonus payment. So, right. Not only did this guy take loads of money in terms of surplus value extracted from the working people of Sainsbury's Corporation, not only was he awarded free shares of the actual value of the corporation for him to make passive income from, i.e. becoming a wealth owner rather than an income earner, becoming a member of the bourgeois. On top of this, he got rid of a measly £100 bonus for the hard-working people who pay his fucking salary via their surplus value. He's quite literally a real-life Ebenezer Scrooge. Whilst I appreciate Zack's need to be diplomatic, these people are the fucking enemy. These people are the enemy. These people are the enemy of society, and they are the enemy of working people. This man was paid handsomely by shareholders specifically because he generated more money for them in dividends because he slashed away at the employee bonuses, making the company more profitable. Because at the end of the day, if you are operating in the interests of the owners of the companies, right, then you have a material conflict with the workers of those companies who desire to get paid more, which will necessarily come out of the profits of that corporation. And that's what he is paid to do. He is paid to take money away from working people and give it to shareholders. So yeah, tax these motherfuckers. Tax these people until the pips squeak, because they are the enemy of working people in this country. And the fact that he can describe himself as a working person, whilst at the same time slashing bonuses for low-paid employees. £100, that's hardly a massive bonus now, chat, is it? It's not exactly paying these people through the nose. It was a very, very small bonus to make Christmas a little bit nicer. The actual Grinch is out here claiming to be a patriotic working person. I'll tell you what's political. The fundamental nature of class conflict. That's a political argument. And my political argument is like, people like this belong in the gulag. Simple as that. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.